The new Dragon Ball game is finally here after 2 successful beta playtests, and if you're new to this and you want to go on win streaks like what I'm showing you on the screen right now, then you clicked on the right video. Yo, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another Dragon Ball Gekishin Squadra video. And I felt like today would be a good day to kind of give some tips to new players that I've picked up since the full game has been out for a few days now, and we've also played all of the betas beforehand as well. In this video, I'm going to be giving my top tips for beginner players that are not only new to Squadra specifically, but maybe new to this genre as a whole. But don't worry, if you're a more experienced player you feel like, I'm sure you'll still learn at least one thing from this video. If you guys enjoy this type of content and have been loving the new Dragon Ball game, consider leaving a like on the video and subscribing to the channel. But without further ado, here are my top tips for beginners as well as experienced players in Dragon Ball Gekishin Squadra. So the first thing I want to mention that will make a little bit of a difference when talking about mechanics specifically in this video is that I am a controller player, so some phrases will have to be translated to the equivalent mouse 1, shift, left control, etc. Maybe you play on mobile. Just, you know, be sure to translate the controls that I'm saying that pertain to console over to whatever system that you maybe play on. But my first tip I want to give you guys that will instantly make you a better player is gonna sound really basic, I know, but I promise you, you do it more than you know. Don't just tunnel vision on what's in front of you at all times or go through the motions of the game. Always be mindful of what your mini map is telling you and the new notification system that was just implemented for in-game events as well. There will be a very frequent amount of times where maybe you feel like you and your lane mate are just rolling the other team, but then all of a sudden you start getting 2v3'd or maybe even 2v4'd in some cases. So you look up and your entire top lane or bottom lane, whatever lane is opposite to you, has been crashed. This could have been prevented if you were periodically checking the minimap and understanding that your other lane has been getting pushed back the entire game, which means that one of you should have been rotating to help them in your downtime. Now, exactly when you should be trying to do this is pretty situational. Maybe you should rotate to help cap the Nappa or the Android 16 faster before the enemy comes back, or sneak it while they're fighting your other teammates in the lane. Or maybe you need to rotate when you notice that one of the enemies in your lane has gone to put extra pressure on one of those players now that Zeno is on your tower, so you can make it an even 3v3. There are various scenarios where it would be smart for you to rotate, but you'd only know these situations are happening if you're looking at your mini-map. So this may be a pretty basic tip, but it still happens every single game to someone, I can assure you that. Now, the next tip I have for you guys is one that has to do with the very moment you spawn in the game, because that first fight you get into in your lane can really make or break the entire rest of the game for you. Make sure you and your lane mate are speed running, killing the mobs in your lane as fast as possible and getting to that Kai as quick as you can. This is one of the most important things you can do, in my opinion, because level management is right behind game sense and significance in Squadra, especially since there's no 5th player or jungler to kind of equalize those situations where one or maybe even both of you guys are underleveled. Something that you can be saved by in Pokemon Unite, but not so much in this game. So for me, I'm gonna say game sense is number 1, level management is number 2, then mechanics is number 3 in order of importance. Unlike Pokemon Unite though, in this game, until things start to really develop a little bit more at least, I can't really see a scenario where you'd want to bypass the smaller mobs in order to beeline straight to the Kai. You need every ounce of XP you can get here, because falling behind in Squadra, unless you have the Golden Cell Junior Divine Draws or just get a complete lane wipe at some point, is almost impossible to come back from against better players. And if you're underleveled, odds are you won't be getting a lane wipe too often. So make sure you're getting every single mob you can as fast as possible and prioritize getting to that first Kai as quickly as you can. So for these next 2 tips that I have, we're actually going to be going over to the settings before we finish out with more in-game tips and game sense in general for you guys. The next tip I have is always, and I cannot stress this enough, always set your cooldown level up distribution to manual. Fortunately, you only have to remember to do this once, and this setting is saved until you change it to auto again, but trust me, just leave it on manual. To do this after you queue into a match, but before you pick your character, or in that menu when you do pick your character, down at the bottom right is gonna say acquire cards and learn skills. Here you want to press R3 or whatever the corresponding control is on mouse and keyboard or mobile, maybe you're playing on Switch, and change this to manual instead of auto. Now, the reason you want to do this is because you want to be in total control of how you're leveling up your skills, specifically if your match has the Super Start Divine Draw active. This Divine Draw allows you to start with one skill at max level, and for some characters, this is almost an auto win in the first fight. Characters like Zamasu, Baby, Super Saiyan Goku are prime examples that I can think of off the top of my head that take full advantage of this Divine Draw, with someone like Goku being able to start with his Kamehameha being at max level. But you want to make sure you specifically pick these skills yourself, which you can only do if your cooldown level distributions are on manual. You also want to prioritize maxing out certain skills first before others, even without the Divine Draw, because some skills are more impactful in different stages of the game, like say Cell for example. I like maxing out his projectile first because early game, this is your only source of ranged damage, and even though your passive and your third skill allow you to heal, it is still a small amount at a time, and he's relatively low health before he transforms. Another example is Piccolo, who in my opinion has some of the best sniping capabilities in the game. The moment you're able to, I like to dump any and all levels I can into Special Beam Cannon, because at max level and even at level 2, this thing one-shots a lot, and I mean a lot of people. Piccolo has some of the best range in the game, so you can't really go wrong with leveling up skill 1 or 2 first depending on how you like to play. But when you get to level 5, Special Beam Cannon is almost always going to be your priority. So I can't really say what to prioritize for every character because I don't play them all, at least I haven't yet. But if you know a certain character like the back of your hand, you already know what their best moves are, so be sure to have manual turned on so you can prioritize that move first. Next tip, and this is something that I actually didn't realize until the game first came out, and I'm so glad I did because it played a big part in the win streak that I showed you guys at the beginning, because I was able to secure certain kills that maybe would have gotten away from me otherwise. Over in the options, you want to go to your auto aim settings and rush attack settings and go down to priority conditions. By default, this is set to nearest, but in my experience, you almost always want to have this set to lowest total HP percentage and change this for rush attack and auto aim, because auto aim is for your skills and rush attack is obviously for your rush attack. This allows you to still target a player that might be trying to escape the fight without hitting any mobs that more experienced players might try to put in between you guys in order to manipulate your auto aim. The reason you don't want to have this on lowest total HP is because most fights happen either mid lane or above or below the base, which is where the lowest HP mobs are. Closer to spawn and in between the lanes are where the beefier mobs with more HP are, which means that usually, even at full health, these Cell Juniors and Frieza soldiers that are on the map will almost always have less health than the actual players. So just do yourself a favor and put this on lowest HP percentage if you're using auto aim, which I'm sure most of us are, so those mobs don't get in the way of you securing low health target kills. Now for this next tip, and I'm not really sure what number this is because I didn't really number these, I just tried to write down every single thing that I thought was important for you guys to know. This one is really important because honestly, whether I'm playing with randoms or playing with friends, sometimes you just fall asleep at the wheel and you start doing stuff without even realizing it. But I legit see this happen every single game, and it can cause you to lose a very important objective. You do not have to go and beat Nappa or Android 16 as soon as they spawn. You can wait it out a couple of levels. They will still be there unless the enemy team tries to go and take them, and then you can kind of play it how you see it at that point. But I can't tell you how many times I see a teammate just rush over to do this objective when Zeno is on a tower or we're still extremely low level. And if you're pretty new to the game, odds are you won't be soloing this objective at level 5. So when it comes to these objectives, try and create like a checklist in your head of things that you want to see happen in order for you to go and do that objective, unless you're already pretty high level. So for example, even though I'm relatively comfortable soloing these things myself at this point, it's still not ideal a lot of the times because you really want to do these things as fast as possible so the opposing team doesn't come in and snipe it at 1 HP. I generally like to do these objectives if one, we're decently ahead of the enemy team in levels, ideally around like level 7. 2, have we already killed both of the players in our lane? And 3, is my teammate currently with me right now so we can do this together in the shortest amount of time possible? There are other particular things that you specifically might want to happen before you go for these objectives, but this is generally what I look for unless I see some type of other opportunity. There have been many games where I just sat in a cloud and let the other team get beat up by Nappa and the Cybermen. Sometimes they'll even use their evasive step or vanishing step, which just makes my mouth water, man. I just want to, the whole plate is there for me, so I can just ult for free at that point. Probably kill one or even both of them in a perfect situation and finish cleaning up the objective too. Don't let that be you. And this goes back to the first tip of being well aware of what's going on in the game outside of just yourself at any given time too. Now my next tip is actually a few tips in one, but they all kind of tie into each other, so we're just gonna try to take it one at a time. But be very aware of not only your cooldowns, but your opponent's cooldowns as well, especially any movement abilities that are or aren't up at any given time. And this also goes for vanish / evasive step as well. You generally, unless you have to run for your life, want to be the last one to use your evasive step, because it can be the difference between life and death, or securing a kill, or letting them get away at 1 HP. Let me give you guys an example, right? I love examples. We've already had a few. Let's say you're fighting a Super Saiyan Goku, who, by the way, is one of the toughest characters to escape from if he wants you dead, because he has 2 movement cooldowns as well as an evasive step. Well, he probably already used both of those movement cooldowns to do his big damage combo to you and jump right in your face, which means that all he has left for the next couple of seconds, and this all happens really fast, is his evasive step. Now, I'm gonna be honest. Most people, especially at lower levels, are gonna use that evasive step as soon as you hit them with a single cooldown. So if I'm playing any character with a movement speed down skill, I want to try and bait out that evasive step and then use my movement speed down debuff cooldown to catch up to them manually, and then do as much burst damage as I can all at once before they get back to their base or before they get their movement cooldown or cooldowns back. If this means ult, then press the ult. You'll get to do it more in the game. Just use it. But if you wait them out properly and hopefully don't get nuked in the process, you will 9 times out of 10 outplay them unless they outlevel you already. Even if you have to use your evasive skill to catch up to them or cut in front of them to maximize your rush attack value. And my last tip, I was gonna mention the ping system since there's no in-game chat whatsoever, but let's be honest. Who pays attention to the pings in this game? Let's just be for freaking real now. So the final tip I'm gonna give you guys is to be sure you utilize the training room and read and practice your character's kit before hopping into a game. I know, who wants to lab characters in Squadra? That just sounds nasty, right? You don't have to spend days in the lab learning combos like this is Street Fighter or some shit, but I promise you, knowing what you're doing before hopping into ranked is a lot better than figuring things out on the fly after you've already died a few times, you're feeding at this point, or you're letting kills get away because you didn't know a cooldown worked in a certain way. I think some of the best examples of this in the game currently of characters that should probably be, labbed a little bit before you just hop in are Hit, Kale, Frieza, Bojack, and the Gammas. All of these characters have decently complex kits one way or another, at least more so than other characters in the game, with a lot of little niche things about them. But I'll just speak about Kale specifically since I have a lot more experience with her than the other characters so far. While Kale does a lot of damage by just using her cooldowns regularly, when you combo them together, you can trigger different variations of these attacks. For example, when you throw out her L2 or skill 3, which is the really slow moving orb, initially this is just a slow moving projectile that maybe scares them for a second because they aren't really just gonna sit there and get hit by this, right? However, if you hit this orb with her skill 1, it causes a massive AoE dome-shaped explosion that does a ton of extra damage. And if you hit it with her skill 2, which is her beam, it causes an explosion that stretches in a horizontal direction and kind of making a T formation, which I've been able to use this to catch players trying to run away, and it's pretty cool because usually they try to evasive step either this way or that way, not just straight forward, right? So be sure to go and learn your characters at least a little bit before you try and commit to them in rank, because especially in a 4v4, your mistakes are going to be extremely significant and extremely visible to the outcome of the game. You're going to be a lot more helpful to your team if you know how to use the character you're choosing. But that is going to do it for this one, fellas. These are my top tips for not only beginner players, but I think a lot more experienced players could also have learned something here as well, or just be reminded of some things that may fall to the wayside if you're really grinding right now. Sometimes we need a reminder of the fundamentals no matter what we're doing in life. I hope this helps someone out there, and if it did, consider leaving a like on the video and maybe even a tip down below in the comments that really helped improve your game as well that possibly I didn't mention. Now, of course, there are things that I didn't really go in depth with in this video, things like what all the different divine draws are and what they do, all the different divine combo cards, which characters you should try to prioritize unlocking first, what are the easier characters in the game to climb with. If you guys want a full length video on all of these things in particular, let me know down below in the comments. Whether you knew all of these things or not, I can almost guarantee you that abiding by these tips will improve your game and make your climb easier no matter what rank you're currently at. But anyways, have a great day, and I'm gonna see you all in the next one. Peace out, my boys.